Good evening and welcome. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of the Gettysburg Area School District. Board director meetings and committee meetings are open to the public but are not public meetings. All school district residents who wish to make public comment should sign in prior to the start of the meeting and request to speak during citizens' participation. School district residents wishing to speak to the board shall do so only during the citizen participation section of the meeting. Public comment is always welcome, and all issues will be referred to the appropriate board committee or administrator. Comments will be summarized in the official board minutes, which will be available by contacting the business office. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. All of our board members are accounted for, except for Mike Dickerson, who is excused this evening. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we are starting under notices and communications with, unless there are questions on 3.1 to 3.4. Any questions? Okay, then we are on 3.5, the ACTE presentation. I believe Mr. Eckenrode is here. Welcome.
Thank you and good evening, everybody. Now I'm on. Thank you for having me here tonight. Several months ago, ACTI and the superintendents and the Joint Operating Committee heard some discussion in the community that we weren't providing enough information or good information, and there was some feeling that we weren't being transparent. So we decided to come up with a plan to make sure that that wasn't the case. So the first thing we decided to do was on October 16th, we had a community information session for ACTI expansion that was held at the Gettysburg Area High School auditorium. And Dr. Perry and I had about a 45-minute presentation that we gave to the public. We did not give the opportunity to ask questions at that session. That was by design. We just wanted to get the information out there, let everybody digest it. And then the second part of that communication was to do meetings like this. We would come to individual school board meetings and we would very briefly review the presentation we gave on October 16th and then give you all a chance to ask questions. And we waited till January because we knew the elections were coming and we knew we would have some new school board members, so we wanted to make sure the new members got information as well. So that's my reason for being here tonight. Also, to foster better communication, we created a long-term planning web page on our main website. It's easily accessible under the information section, and you can go there and find a little bit of history about career and technical education, a little bit of history of ACTI, and before that Adams County Tech Prep. And you can get a summary of what we've done so far to try to expand ACTI and offer more career and tech ed to our students here in Adams County. And also along with that, I started doing a monthly newsletter. My report that I give to the Joint Operating Committee every month is in the form of a newsletter, and then as soon as that meeting's over, the next morning I send that newsletter out to all school board members. So I have all of your new email addresses, so you all should be getting that monthly newsletter at the end of the month after the Joint Operating Committee meeting. So I'll just very briefly, I'm not going to go through this whole presentation because that would take a pretty long time. But I just wanted to kind of go through the slides and make sure everyone kind of knew what we presented at the October 16th meeting. So first of all, we just kind of talked about ACTI and what we are, what we do, and the programs that we have at ACTI to offer high school students. We talked about the benefits of career and technical education, of which there are many. If you do any kind of research at all in career and technical education, I know I'm a little bit biased, but I think you'll find that career and technical education is one of the best things going in our public education system. So there are reports and organizations that promote career and technical education, studies that have been done, parents, students, business leaders all agree that career and technical education is a valuable part of our education system. Students are satisfied with their experience in career and technical education. And one of the things we like to talk about is the 1-2-7 ratio. And basically what that means, we'll use the medical profession as an example here, but this basically applies to any career field that you take a little deep dive into. The numbers aren't exactly like this, but they're all around this ratio of 1-2-7. And what that means is for any career field, there's one person that needs a advanced degree, a 4-year plus degree, a master's degree, a doctorate degree. So in the medical profession, think of your PhD, your doctor. And then there are a couple folks that need a 4-year degree. Think of your nurses, people like that. But then in that same career field, there are 7 careers out of 10 that don't require any kind of 4-year degree. It might be a 2-year degree, it might be a tech school education, it might be just an industry certification like an EMT or something like that. So our point here is that not everyone needs a 4-year degree. You can have a very satisfactory career and standard of living with some technical training and a 2-year degree or something like that. So that's what that means. We talked about how career and tech ed works for students and works for our communities and local business and industry. We talked about career and technical education in Pennsylvania. Basically, in Pennsylvania, you have what are called approved programs. And the first part of that list there, the top 2/3 of the screen, those are basically the hoops we have to jump through to get our programs approved through the Department of Education. So there's a lot of work that goes into what we do before we can even offer one of our programs. If we jump through all of those hoops and have good quality programs, then we get some financial benefit from it. We get some subsidies, we get some grants from both the state and the federal level. So it's worth it to do that work. Then we got into career and technical education in Adams County and took a closer look at this map, and it's kind of hard to see, but this little crossroads right here, that's Route 30 and Route 15, just down the road from us. And you don't see ACTI on this map because ACTI didn't exist until about 5 years ago. We had our tech prep programs for a number of years, but we didn't have a fully county-wide career and technical school like most other counties had. Most other counties have had their schools for 50 years, and ACTI has been around for about 5 years. Then we took a look at some data, and this, I'll spend just a little bit of time on this. I think this is important. If you look at the size of Adams County, out of 67 counties, we're number 31 population-wise, and so that's kind of middle of the road. If you look at our high school population, grades 9 through 12, we're also kind of middle of the road, and that's the yellow line going across there. We have about 3,500 students in the 5 school districts, grades 9 through 12, that we serve. So that's about middle of the road for school districts in Adams County, or career and tech schools in Adams County. So this list is a list of all of the tech schools in Pennsylvania, the countywide tech schools, and we fall in the middle there if we sort through the number of high school students in the participating districts. If we look at the number of programs available in the tech school, that yellow line drops right to the bottom of the list. So even though we're about middle of the road for how many students we're trying to serve, the number of programs we offer to those students is way at the bottom of the list. We're down there, the line in green is Fulton County on the other side of Franklin County. They have about 500 students in grades 9 through 12, and they have 7 programs for their students. We have 3,500 students in grades 9 through 12. We have 7 programs for our students. So I don't like being at the bottom of that list. And then some of these are just some other looks at data that are similar. If you compare us to the tech schools that surround us, Franklin County to the west, Cumberland Perry to the north, and York County to the east, you can see how many programs and students those schools serve. Here in Adams County, that's about the footprint of our little building next to the Gettysburg Area High School. And you might say, well, those schools and counties are much bigger than us, and that's true, but the closest one to compare us to is Franklin County. They're about 1.5 times the size of Adams County, but they have over 3 times the number of programs, and they serve over 4 times the number of students in those programs. So I think we should have more programs to offer our students. The programs that we do have are good. We presented some data about how well our students do and how good our programs are. Some more data on our students. The columns in yellow here tell us that about 58% of our students go right to work after they graduate, and about 50% of our students go right to work, and about 55% of our students go on to post-secondary education. So the old myth that if you go to the tech school, you can't go to college, that's not true. Half of our students go to college. So we think we can do better. So a number of years ago, we developed some guiding principles, and we had Crabtree Rohrbal do a feasibility study, and they analyzed a lot of data related to the workforce needs in Adams County and South Central Pennsylvania. And through a lot of work and discussions, we came up with 7 programs that we would like to add to what we have to offer now, which would double the number of programs we have. The educational space was close to 80,000 square feet when we determined how big the labs would have to be. And then, of course, we would need offices and maintenance facilities and stuff like that. So bottom line is they're recommending for 14 career and tech ed programs, they're looking at about 142,000 square foot building. And just for comparison, I understand the new Bermudian Springs Middle School is also about 140,000 square feet. So that's kind of what we're looking at. They looked at a number of different options. Right now, the Joint Operating Committee is focused on the option where we build all 14 programs in a new facility on a new site all at once. We know the construction costs aren't going to go down, so the idea of trying to do a little bit now and a little bit 5 years from now and a little bit more 5 years from now, it's kind of, it's not going to cost any less if we try to do it that way. One thing to keep in mind that is these cost estimates do not include some of the site acquisition fees and some of the soft costs and things like that. So the updated numbers here, we asked Crabtree, even though this study was done a couple of years ago, we asked them to come back and update the numbers. So the updated numbers we have from them is the total cost for this project would be between $56 and $63 million for the building alone. We know that that's a lot of money, so the superintendents and I got together with our business managers and asked the question, can we afford this? Knowing that an all-in cost would probably be about $75 million. And the short answer was no, we really can't afford $75 million. So we came back and said, what can we afford? And the answer seemed to be around $35 to $55 million, depending on the district. Some, they looked at all their upcoming capital costs and decided that that was about what they could afford. So we figure we have about a $40 million difference between what we'd like to do and what we think we can afford. And some of that we can make up with grants. We know that there's grants available out there to help schools do this type of work. There are numerous tech schools in Pennsylvania that are doing renovations right now. Cumberland Perry has a $24 million renovation that they're just getting started on. So there's grant money out there to help us make up that difference. I don't know if we can make up $40 million, but we should be able to do something with that. So we're looking at a smaller project, maybe not 14 programs, maybe 10 programs. We don't have that figured out yet. And the reason we don't quite have that figured out yet is because we're still looking for a building site. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We also presented the way the Articles of Agreement are written. Each district would pay a percentage of the total cost based on a pretty large formula that determines the relative wealth of the district. So you can see Gettysburg there. Of all 5 districts, Gettysburg would have the largest share at 35.56% of the total cost. That formula is not set in stone. That formula is in the Articles of Agreement, and it could be changed if the discussion continues and someone decides to do something different. That formula could be changed. Then just as a rough idea, we came up with, this is our current operating budget. Gettysburg's share of that budget is about $451,000. If we were to issue a $70 million bond, which we know we're not going to do, we know we can't afford that, but that's what Gettysburg's share annual share of that bond would be. And then if we had to up the operating budget for ACTI for 14 programs, that's our best guess of what Gettysburg's share of that would be. $6.8 million overall to operate ACTI to cover our debt service and our operating costs of a new, larger building. That's, if you compare with my list of all the tech schools from a number of slides ago, that's about what a school that has 14 to 15 programs costs to operate in Pennsylvania. And I know that number is kind of scary and big, but I think in Adams County, we're just not used to that number. But if you look at what other counties are paying for their tech schools, that's what it costs to do career and technical education. Okay, here's that comparison to similar size schools. We have our 7 programs. So if you look at some of the schools down here, here's a school that has 13 programs, Greater Johnstown area, $6.48 million, $6.7 million for Lawrence County CTC. So our estimates are not too far off from what somewhat other schools actually pay. Potential building sites, we've evaluated so far about 11 potential building sites. We looked at a number of different aspects of those potential building sites, and each one seems to have its own challenges. That's why we haven't been able to settle on one just yet, whether it's utilities like sewer and water, or whether there's a lot of vegetation, or the location, or wetlands, or whatever. It just seems like there's a lot of challenges to finding a piece of land that's suitable for what we're trying to do. And we're not trying to do this alone. We have our partner schools. We're partnering with local businesses. We're talking to legislators. The Adams County Commissioners have given us a $500,000 grant to help buy land. There may be some more money available there with that grant if we can identify a piece of land and spend that money by December 2026 is when that money runs out. So we're kind of under a time crunch right now. So that was kind of the presentation we gave back in October. So what kind of questions do you have for me?
Sean, thanks for being here this evening.
You're welcome.
Where are we? There's a rumor that you're thinking about retiring at the end of this school year. So we were just curious where. I think we're pretty close, if I recall, to hiring a new executive director. Could you give us an update on that?
Yes. We opened the position in November, about mid-November. We've had it advertised on our website. Dr. Sharon Perry from Conewago Valley School District, our current superintendent of records, she is leading the search. So it was advertised on their website. We put it out on social media and on Indeed and everywhere. We have, I think, 9 applicants, and the Joint Operating Committee is meeting in executive session tomorrow evening to look at those applicants and decide who they would like to interview and what the process for hiring a new director would be. I think we have some good candidates to choose from, so.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, Tim, go ahead.
So on your presentation, you said that Gettysburg had the biggest chunk of this. So, and I find that odd considering that Conewago Valley is a much bigger school district than we are. So I'm trying to figure out why we're paying more than Conewago with a larger school district.
That's a great question. Conewago Valley School District is a little bit bigger than Gettysburg School District population-wise. However, the formula that's used to determine these percentages is in part based on the aid ratio of a school district, which is, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, Belinda, maybe you can help me a little bit. It's the market value divided by median income or something like that. Go ahead.
It's multiple factors. And so in terms of what those numbers are, Gettysburg is obviously different in that calculation simply because not that I like to highlight this, but we have more wealth in our district than Kanawha Valley does. So market value income ratio, market value aid, enrollment, all is into that factor of providing that number.
Yeah, and like I said, that I don't think the formula is specifically spelled out in our Articles of Agreement, but it refers to a formula in school code that's used for other determinations, like determining how a particular grant gets distributed among school districts. It's a frequently used formula, but it's based on the relative wealth of the district.
Many of the technical institutions and across the state use those formula-based driven data requirements and bill out towards the schools.
Right. And our operating costs budget formula is a little bit different. So that's more based on how many students each district sends to ACTI. So the more students you send, the higher percentage of our budget you're responsible for. So a little bit different than that formula.
Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
Sean, also, my understanding is there's a lot more demand than we can meet at ACTI. Mm-hmm. Approximately over the last couple of years, how many students that have applied are we turning down? I'd be interested in Gettysburg numbers, and maybe also if you have any idea what that number would look like across Adams County.
I don't have the numbers broken down by district right now, but I can get those for you. I can tell you overall, over the last several years, we've turned away 25 to 30% of the students that applied. We have about 150 seats available each year for juniors, and typically we've had, over the past couple of years, one year we had 206 applicants, last year we had 193 applicants, so we turn about 25 to 30% of the students who apply away. And that's the way it is across the state. And I think we would have, I think if we had more programs, obviously we'd be able to serve more students. But I think with a new school and the promotion that we would do and the excitement that it would generate, I think we would still have to turn away students. Yep.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Justine, and then I see you.
So if you were to get the 500,000 by December of next year, which would be great, what would the timeline look like in building and opening the doors? And I know that's probably not an easy question,
Yeah,
right?
I don't have experience with school construction. Dr. Perry has a little bit of experience with that, and she thinks 2 to 2.5 years maybe. So we kind of worked backwards. I forget exactly when we thought, but maybe like the beginning of the 27-28 school year. But it would take a couple years, obviously, to build a school building.
Ryan, go ahead.
I'm just looking at your existing programs on slide 2, and I'm wondering, I mean, it sounds like instead of expansion of existing programs, the emphasis in the presentation is to have new programs added to them. Are there any examples of new programs that you have in mind? Or is there sort of market research from the students or from the county?
Yes, the feasibility study that was done back in 2023 suggested these 7 new programs. Allied Health, we already have Allied Health, but every year since I've been here, 7 years now, we have over twice as many students apply for Allied Health than we have seats for. Now, if you remember, some of you weren't on the board at the time, but we passed a budget amendment at the beginning of the school year to hire a second Allied Health teacher. We've completed that, so we're now taking 40 students in Allied Health every year instead of just 20. So we squeeze them all into one classroom over there in that little building. So we need a second Allied Health program. So we've already addressed that, but HVAC, we need advanced manufacturing, some type of ag program. We were thinking ag mechanics, but even something, more involved than that. I mean, we're Adams County, right? So we should have some kind of big ag program. Automotive technology, welding, and possibly auto collision repair. although I just read an article the other day that all these data centers that are being built, they're thinking they have like an 80,000 person shortage in electricians and plumbers for building all these data centers across the country. So maybe electrical occupations would be a good one to add to. And this is all based on the feasibility study data that Crabtree Rohrbach conducted.
Any further questions?
I do have a question. First, thank you for all you've done. You'll be missed when you retire.
Thank you. You're welcome.
That's a statement, not a question, but I do have a question for you. So if you're hoping to take advantage of the grant from the Adams County Commissioners, which would have to be done by the end of December of this year, you mentioned, I think, 11 sites that you've been looking at for locations. What's your projection in finalizing a location? And then once you do, what kind of support are you looking for from the different school districts to be able to secure the purchase?
The initial 11 sites that we looked at, most of them have been rolled out. I'd say we're down to about 4 that we're focusing on. And just talked with the superintendent of record about this earlier this week. We're going to get all of that information together in one table, one spreadsheet, pros, cons, all of that, whether utilities are available or not, whether there's wetlands to deal with. And, you know, the Joint Operating Committee's current thought is, you know, they're willing to pay a little bit more for a piece of land that's ready to go instead of one that we're going to have to mitigate wetlands and pay $1.5 million to get utilities to or things like that. So we're trying to be very thorough in our evaluation of the potential building sites. I would like to have at least something under contract before I retire at the end of June. And I think that's doable. We just have to make sure we're pushing forward. Another thing that we did last school year was hire an assistant to the director for me to take over some of the daily school operating responsibilities, and that's been a big help for me this year. So first half of the year was spent doing a lot of training, but he's now, you know, kind of taken over a lot of this stuff that I used to have to do that kept me from analyzing potential building sites. So did that answer your question? Did I hit them all?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Thank you so much for all of the information you're providing, and the efforts are really appreciated. Looking forward to the newsletter.
You're welcome. Thank you, and open invitation to anybody if you want to come tour our programs and look at our students and teachers in action. I love to talk about it and show off what we do. So thanks.
All right, that moves us to 3.6, which is our audit presentation. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Tina Geipa, manager on your audit. Appreciate your time this evening that we can go over the results of your audit. As you'll notice, you don't have your audit package yet. We are still wrapping everything up. We have some small review processes. Belinda's working on a couple things for us to put in your audit, the management discussion analysis, and we're waiting on the solicitor's letters yet. So there's still a few steps that we need, but we can still present where we're at. So just to say, those bound copies will be provided at a future meeting. So our next is, before we dive into the results, I want to start with the why, what, and where. Why, what, and how. Just to lay a foundation for an audit. So why does a district need to have an audit every year? Pennsylvania Department of Education requires an independent audit be done to comply with your financial reporting requirements. The federal government requires a compliance audit when you spend more than $750,000 of federal funds. And last year, Gettysburg spent about $3.5 million of federal dollars. Additionally, there are requirements for continuing disclosures with your bond holders. So they require an annual audit. And of course, you, the school board, in your fiscal responsibilities, you want to see that everything's been evaluated. On our next slide is the what, or what we call our scope of audit. So this slide covers all the funds reported by the district. They're all listed here on the slide. The other part of the audit is government-wide financial statements, and in those government-wide statements, something you only see once a year in our audit package, presents your long-term assets and liabilities. So that is your capital assets, your long-term debt being your bonds, and I think you have one general obligation note, your pension and OPEB liabilities, and your compensated absences. Our next slide is, how do we conduct an audit? So we approach the audit in a three-step process. We plan, we execute, and we report. So the first two phases, the planning and execution, are focused on evaluating controls, assessing risk, and then, of course, verifying the accuracy of the numbers that will appear in the report. Our team performs the necessary testing to ensure the district has the appropriate processes and procedures in place as it relates to financial transactions and reporting, and ultimately to ensure the financial statement presentation is accurate. And our final step involves compiling the financial reporting package and issuing our opinions based on the results of our work. So Boyer & Ritter provides 3 audit opinions in your report, 1 for the financial statements and 2 related to the compliance audit. The first report is the independent auditor's report over your financial statements, which is anticipated to state that the district has received an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, noting that they are reported in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Of course, the best possible result that you can get and what you would expect to see, and I believe what you've seen historically. Then we have our basis for opinions section, where we state that we conducted our audit in accordance with the appropriate auditing standards, that we're independent of the district, and that we've met our ethical responsibilities. The next paragraph is new this year. It's the change in accounting principle, and that is for the implementation of GASB 101. This new standard required a reevaluation and a recalculation of your compensated absences. That is your employee liability, vacation, personal days, sick leave. The new standard has increased what was reported as a liability, and it's done that for pretty much every school district that we audit. Then we identify that management is responsible for the preparation of the financial statements and is also responsible for the internal controls related to your financial transactions. Next section is the auditor's responsibilities, and we note here that we must obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatement and to issue our report. And again, just to note that reasonable assurance is very high. We do not have the capability of looking at every transaction that went through your books last year. And then we have of course, the RSI, required supplementary and supplementary information. And then the last report references our next report. And this is one of our first on compliance. So this is the next slide is our independent auditor's report on internal controls, compliance, and other matters. In this report, we anticipate providing another unmodified opinion. Specifically, we did not identify any material weaknesses in internal controls over financial reporting. However, we did identify 2 deficiencies in internal control this year, a significant deficiency in closing adjustments, and a compliance finding for delayed filing of your data collection form. And that is the form that has to go to the federal government based on what your federal expenditures were and the results of the audit. In relation to that closing adjustments, this year we the auditors identified 11 adjustments, plus there were 8 provided by the business office. Most of the auditor prepared entries were GASB related, so that was just in like the food service fund reporting some of the things that have to be done for the pension and OPEB and compensated absences, fixed assets, that kind of thing. We identified 2 significant general fund adjustments this year. One related to recognition of a deferred revenue plan card subsidy receipt that you received that had been on the books for many, many years and finally came through. And then one for a new grant that needed to be booked. And again, like I said, the district did not submit the data collection form within the 9-month reporting period, and that was just due to changes last year, which in turn delayed submission of that report. We are on track for submission timely, though, this year. Our next report is the Independent Auditor's Report on Compliance. This is the third report, and it focuses on your major federal programs selected for testing as part of the compliance audit. This year, we tested your special education cluster, which is your IDEA funds you receive from the intermediate unit, as well as the child nutrition cluster, which is all of your school breakfast and lunch and donated commodities combined. Those two programs accounted for about 1.9 million of your federal expenditures. The report's again expected to express an unmodified opinion confirming the district complied with all of the program requirements. Our opinion is based on the audit conducted in accordance with the 3 professional standards: generally accepted auditing standards, government auditing standards, and uniform guidance. Again, management is responsible for ensuring compliance with the program requirements, and then we perform tests to identify and verify that those compliance requirements were met. And then finally, on the last page, we note that no deficiencies in internal controls relating to the program were identified during our testing. Our next slide is just a glance at the financial statements. So those were the 3 pages that your auditors are responsible for, and as I said before, the remainder of this is the management's responsibility. So a few sections to note is management and discussion analysis on beginning page 4 when you see it. It's currently being prepared, but it will provide a strong summary of the district's financial position, explains the changes that occurred over the prior year, and we consider this one of the more important sections because it breaks it down and gets it direct to you. Easier to read. The next section to highlight is jumping down to page, about the middle of the screen is the footnotes, and you'll see we've identified 6 that we feel as more significant to draw attention to. A new one is in note 1, the restatement for GASB 101, and here, just as a note, the change resulted in a decrease in your beginning net position of $261,000 due to that recalculation. Page 71 is our budget to actual report. Very important page to look at because it does show what you budgeted, what you actually spent, and where your variances are. And then lastly is our single audit reporting section. First 5 pages of that were what we already went through is our 2 reports. Your CFA or Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards is in this section. It lists out all the district programs, the amounts received, the amounts spent, and what you have left to carry on into the new year. I skipped all the rest of them because we're going to hit the numbers on the next couple slides. The first slide is your general fund. As expected, both revenues and expenditures have continued to increase year after year. It does note on this screen, shows your current year actual and budget, and then the previous 2 years actual. Top is the full general fund results. The bottom is just your local revenue detail, since that is a big chunk of your revenue. So just to address that, taxes account for approximately 61% of the district's general fund revenues. Those taxes are not just your real estate, that's also your earned income taxes. Real estate transfer taxes are all included in there. Your state and federal sources contributed another 34% to your budget, with the remainder coming from miscellaneous revenues and investment earnings. This year, revenues exceeded budget amounts by about $4.1 million, primarily due to higher than expected tax collections, receipt of that item I mentioned earlier, that deferred plan con funding that had been hanging out for a while, as well as federal and state grants that were not budgeted for. Expenditures, including transfers, also were above budget by about $1.4 million last year, largely because of the excess cost in special education and charter schools last year. So overall, our net of revenues over expenditures ended the year with a decrease or a deficit of $229,000. Again, you can see they're significantly better than what you had budgeted your end of year to be. For a total fund balance in the general fund of $26 million. A breakdown of that is on our next slide, which shows your various classifications. So you'll see that we have non-spendable fund balances of $235,000 related to inventories and prepaid expenses, $4.3 million that are restricted or sitting in reserves at the Lincoln Benefit Trust, $10.9 million in committed, $5.8 in assigned for various specific uses all noted on that screen, leaving $4.7 million unassigned and available for operations. Again, like I said, the rest of that has all been earmarked or set aside for specific purposes. Our next slide is the capital projects reserve and capital projects bond funds. Just to note that nearly all the revenue within that capital projects reserve fund comes from investment earnings or transfers from the general fund. So that was that $2 million this past year. $1.6 million of that was transferred in from the general fund. So our ending fund balance in the capital projects reserve fund was $11 million at the end of the year. The bottom is our capital projects bond fund. The $590,000 revenues are your investment earnings, because this fund came through from financing. Expenditures of $13 million related to your construction projects, so we left an ending fund balance of about $7.3 million for capital projects. Our next slide is our food service fund. Total revenues, again, you'll see decreased over the prior year, and that decrease occurred in both your food service revenue, which is your charges for services, your meal cost, as well as your federal and state grant revenues, both decreased last year. Again, expenditures increased over the prior year in both salaries and benefits and your food and supplies categories. So you ended the year with revenues over expenditures in a decrease of $200,000, leaving a net position of $1.7 million for future. Next, we have our student activity fund results. This represents a combination of all the district student activity funds. So you'll see we had an increase in net position of $21,000, so that is your revenue over expenditures, leaving $204,000 available for the students in the 25-26 school year. And our last slide of numbers highlights some of the most significant assets and liabilities on those government-wide statements, showing $47 million in cash. Most of that, about $26 million, sits in your general fund, $18 million in the two capital projects funds, and $2 million in food service. Capital assets net of depreciation is $104 million. That includes approximately $500,000 specifically related to your food service activities. General obligation debt of approximately $60 million is the 4 outstanding issuances with principal and interest payments scheduled through 2037. Then we have our accumulated sick leave and our pension and OPEB liabilities. Those pension liabilities are all through PSERS, so the liability is actuarially determined by them. The OPEB liabilities is a combination of what's sitting at PSERS, and then you also have a district program there that has to be recorded. So that's it on the financial statement side. You will be receiving 2 other letters as part of the audit package. That is our, what we call a required communication letter, and a couple things that our next slide highlights from that. We had no uncorrected misstatements. All adjustments identified during the audit were reviewed and approved and posted by the management team, and the financial statements all reflect all those adjustments. We did not have any disagreements, significant issues, or significant difficulties encountered during the audit. Everyone was very helpful and cooperative. Truly appreciate all the work of Belinda and Tom and the rest of their team for ensuring another successful audit. And then finally is our management comments letter, and this is just to let you know of a couple upcoming items. The first one is a GASD for financial reporting model. It's going to require some changes to your MD&A, to your proprietary fund revenue and expenditure schedule, that is your food service schedule, and your budgetary comparison statements. And then the other item is the uniform guidance revisions for this coming year. The biggest thing in that is that the threshold went from $750,000 to $1 million to require a single audit. Unfortunately, we're still spending more than that, so single audits will continue. And we'll work with the management team to get everything implemented next year. That's all I had for you. So if you have any questions, I can try to answer.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that presentation and for Belinda and Tom for your work with your team on that. Looks like Kathleen has a question.
Yeah, I do, thanks. First, these were really informative slides, so it was good to see them. It would be helpful to receive this kind of thing before the meeting, moving forward. So when we receive the audit packet, I'd also like to receive these PowerPoint slides, please. Thank you. And a question about the 2 deficiencies in internal controls. Did we incur any penalties due to those deficiencies?
No.
Thank you.
No, they did not do anything on the data collection form. It's just the fact that it changes how much we have to audit as part of your compliance audit. But there is nothing that caused any penalty at all there.
So those two, I had a similar question. Those 2 deficiencies are not considered corrective actions?
There will be a corrective action plan have to be attached to your audit report when it comes out, just indicating that it was.
Okay.
The one, like I said, it was, we picked up the revenue and took care of receivable. We had to pick up we picked up the cash and the receivable removal, but we didn't pick up the revenue for it. Because of being a long-lived receivable, it also had to be recorded as a deferred revenue. So you hadn't picked up the revenue for it in history.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, well, we will work on getting that material to the board, and thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
All right, thank you.
We are moving on to citizens' participation. Al.
Thank you, President Alice. Before we start that, I would like to say on behalf of the board, a big welcome to David Walker, who's filling in tonight for Lee Dalton. Thank you, David. We probably won't have as much fun tonight as we had last night at Littlestown, but still it'll be okay. Good evening, everyone. We have 2 people that have asked to address the board. We'll start with Sharon Kaya. Am I pronouncing that right?
No.
Help me out.
It's Kaya.
Thank you.
Kaya. And also, we're actually together.
You're a team?
Yes, we're a team.
This is highly irregular, but we're going to allow it tonight.
Okay. Well, she needs to go first.
And your name is?
Joanne Nicholson.
Joanne. All right, thank you.
Sharon and I are here on behalf of Pathways to Racial Justice. It's a committee. We're a community and faith-based group working to create a world where racial justice is woven into the fabric of society, ensuring dignity, equity, and opportunity for all. The success of our children depends on their ability to effectively deal with a rapidly changing multiracial and multicultural world in a way that facilitates success and happiness. All students need many different positive role models to help mentor their hopes and dreams and to prepare them to succeed in a global environment. We believe that diversity among our educators strengthens learning, broadens perspectives, and helps every student feel seen and valued. To that end, we urge the Gettysburg Area School District to form a task force or to adopt a clear action plan to recruit, hire, and retain African American and Hispanic teachers and administrators. This is about preparing all our students to live and lead in a diverse world and showing them, through our example, that every child belongs and can thrive.
Sharon. I just wanted to present a point of clarification. So let us be clear about our intentions. We're not asking the district to make concessions by lowering or altering teaching standards for the candidates. We're asking that the district intentionally seek out qualified candidates that are of African and Hispanic descent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we certainly, I'll just tell you from my own personal experience, being a former superintendent for a lot of years, as much as we intentionally try to recruit diverse candidates and so on, we can't force them to apply. And I don't want to speak for Dr. McFarland or Dr. Matzer, but we would love to have diverse candidates apply here at Gettysburg. I'm pretty sure I speak for them when I say that. But thank you, and we appreciate your efforts tonight.
Great, thank you, and great to hear about that committee as well. So I wrote down the name of your committee. Thanks so much. All right, we are moving on to routine approvals. We're going to take items 5.1, the agenda, 5.2, the financial report, and 5.3, human resources recommendations as one vote. So looking for a motion for 5.1 to 5.3.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Madam President, I just would like to thank Michael Gintner for his 32 years of service to the district, and we wish him well as he retires.
Thank you, Kathleen. Any further discussion? All right, take it to a vote. Kathleen?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Justine?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Moving on to items for board action. We'll take these separately, starting with 6.1, the Lincoln Elementary School bridge repairs. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the school bridge repairs? Okay, we will take that to a vote as well. Dave?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Justine?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Moving right along.
And I will also vote yes.
Oh, Kathleen, I'm so sorry. And Kathleen. Normally I check them off, Kathleen, and I forgot. Thank you for saying something. Okay, 6.2. The administration building renovations. This is for the revised project scope and budget, has been up for a couple of different information items over the last few board meetings, and tonight it's up for a vote. Could I get a motion for 6.2?
So moved.
Second.
And the floor is open for discussion.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Tim.
On the numbers for this project, are all those, other than the 10% allocated for, I guess, change orders, extras, stuff that might arise, are all those hard numbers?
No, they're just probable construction estimates based upon the level of completeness for the design, which at this point is about 10%.
So are we Are we voting on to do this project, or are we voting on to move forward to the actual design and bid process?
Yeah, so what this vote is, Tim, is to have the board act upon basically granting the administration permission to adjust the project scope and budget based upon the information provided in both the information item as well as on the plan views that were distributed. And what that would allow us to do is get the design completed. And then at that point, we would move forward with bidding the project. So to answer your original question, again, the numbers that you see here are just estimates. We won't know what the actual construction costs are going to be until we receive bids.
And just to clarify then, after you get your bids, then you would come back to get approval to finalize to move forward with the project?
That's correct. We would go through Facilities and Finance Committee. The committee would make a recommendation, and we would put it on the board agenda for information, and then move it to action, and the board could select the desired scope at that time.
Thank you.
To give a little bit of context, the board was able to walk through the space and building to see kind of what that renovation would look like and what the needs of the building are as they stand. And just a reminder from some of that information that this building and renovation of this building, I'm going to get the time wrong, so somebody's going to have to remind the year, but it was on the capital project to be addressed back when James Geddes was also being renovated and got kind of kicked down the road a little bit. So it is still a high need renovation. And Josh, you had told us the year that it was last renovated, or maybe that it wasn't, but the year that it was built. I'm wondering if you could share that with us.
Yeah, original construction was in 1960, we'll call it for the front portion, 1965 for the back portion, currently where we are currently. Both builds were 2 stories, so 60 and 65. The last renovation, off the top of my head, I believe it was 2002. And main focus at that point was HVAC. Typically, you're 17 to 20 years for HVAC systems, and historically, that's what Gettysburg has acted upon in the past. So we're basically just really following suit to make sure that our HVAC systems are still viable moving forward.
Great. Any other questions? Yeah, Dave, go ahead.
From the standpoint of the project, I do not have any issue with trying to decipher and decide which of the 3 options we choose. I do have a little bit of consternation attaching a number to it before you have hard cost. So I'd rather see that we approve to proceed forward with the design that is the selection of the board, but not to attach a number to it at this point in time.
I'm wondering if there's an easy way to explain the process of bidding. Like, I know, Belinda, you had talked us through a little bit of the ways in which, like, I'm going to use the wrong words. I feel like you said public appropriations or something. Like the building, when you're doing buildings in a public school, for example, that there's like certain things that we have to follow and do. And I'm imagining some of that budgeting process is the way to guide what, what bids can come in. So we set a budget so that we know what we're able to work within. But then if a bid comes back that's lower than that, then we go with the lowest bid. There was something about that.
Yeah, so once the actual cost is known, it'll be the cost. And then that'll be before the board to make a decision as to what, if they want to move forward, if they don't want to move forward, if they want to do a change, an alternate, which would be one of those options but we're not talking about doing the options tonight and the cost. All we're asking is the revision of the design and the scope to include that. Because originally, when the architect was procured, it was designed one way, and now, so therefore, we're asking for it to be designed another way to include the opportunity for the expansion.
Right, and
So,
providing the budget is for the architect to actually be able to give you something that works
Correct.
within that. Otherwise, they wouldn't know what type of
And we won't
costs
know
we're
true
looking at.
cost until the bid date is performed. We're mandated to take low bid. without any regard. And then what that project looks like, the board will adopt what that looks like.
Okay.
So you may decide, I don't want to do the project at all because it costs too much money. Or you may decide, I only want to do the HVAC, or I only want to do the addition and not the expansion. So it's just asking this evening to proceed with the design scope change so that we can go get those pricing.
And like Tim had asked, those bids would come back to us for a vote.
That's correct. It would go before a Facility and Finance Committee meeting to review those bids, and it would come back for the board to take action on those bids. So we would notify the contractors that had bid the project accordingly.
I also just want to make sure that we're clear on what the motion is. So all of the options are listed here on the agenda item, and the option on the table here is the administration's recommendation of going with option 2 with the add alternate from option 3. So the ability to have in the design that second floor plan, but not acting on including that necessarily in the building later, just adding that into the planning process, is my understanding.
If I could jump in there, clarify that
Yep.
a little bit. So you mentioned the different options. Our administrative recommendation actually is to act upon and provide permission to adjust the scope to and budget for option 3. Okay? So what that would look like is we would basically amend the design contract with Barton Associates that was previously approved by the board back in May. And we would release them on designing the scope in option 3 up to $7.5 million, with the full intention of when we go to bid, we would have base bid be option 2, which is the single-story boardroom addition adjacent to where we are right now, boardroom addition, single-story out in the parking lot, and we would delineate in the bid documents that the second floor to that first floor addition would be at alternate number 1. So, but with that said, again, we're asking for board approval to design up to $7.5 million for option 3. But there will be, again, no requirement for the board to approve any bids when we get them. This is just to provide permission for us to amend the design contract.
Got it. I appreciate that. I was reading that. I just was calling it option 2, but I understand what you mean. So option 3, including that add alternate for the second floor.
So
for the
question for
future.
you.
Yep, go ahead, Dave.
So you're approving the design concept. I have no problem with that issue of altering the design and adding the alternative option. But then if you put in the motion and the approval that you're willing to spend up to $7.5 million before you know what it actually costs, then you're saying that you're going to spend $7.5 million of public money without knowing your hard cost. I'd rather see a motion that says we will proceed with the design and design to the need of the district for alternate 3, for option 3, and let them design it and then bid it. To me, this is backwards.
Well, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, but you're putting a cap on it of $7.5 million, and we don't know how much the hard cost is.
So at present moment, that is the way that this goes for all of the buildings that we do. That's a bigger conversation, and you may disagree, but that is not something that is up for discussion right now. If you do disagree, you can vote no on it. But I think at this point, we have to move forward with the understanding that our team can't operate with no budget. That is the responsibility we have to help provide
You can
that.
operate with estimates. In construction, you always have an estimate, but you don't provide a budget number for an architect to proceed with. You design based on what your needs are. Because otherwise, the cost of your architect always is going to be prorated based on what you're already giving him to ceiling out. So to me, it's backwards.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead,
For
Kathleen.
clarification, based on Mr. Seitz' inquiries, where did these figures come from? So where did the 6.8 million and then the 7.5 million, like where did the figures come from?
So I'll jump in here. So the estimates were provided probably a month or so ago. I call it executive content, I guess. So to answer your pointed question, Barton Associates, who is our design professional we contracted with back in May, part of their contract is to provide these estimates, probable construction estimates. That's just part of the agreement. So those numbers came from them.
Go ahead, Justine.
So I know I said this, I guess, at the last board meeting, but thinking again, and just, I guess, for the purpose of the vote tonight, and Sean kind of brings my point forward, and it's exciting to me to hear building of an ACTI for our county, but that building is going to be vacated. And then there's classrooms within the high school that will be vacated. And to see the tech room tonight in the basement, I guess that I thought it was a lot bigger than what it is. There's a room a classroom in the high school that the computer tech operates out of. So I think just to think space-wise and the addition and all the options that we have, we should also think of a completely vacated building in hopefully less than 3 years.
So,
No,
go ahead,
I'm just
Tim.
going to jump in here because I'm not super tech savvy. I get frustrated with my phone. But to me, it would seem, and I get your point, Justine, I'm not trying to degrade it, but the cost to move that particular stuff to an entire new building, I'm thinking would cost a good bit of money just to move that, just to reset it up somewhere else, because it's all functioning from this place and it was designed that way. Am I correct?
It would cost more to set it up over there than it would here. The disparity between the two, Tim, I couldn't speak to that. But what I will take an opportunity to speak to is if the thought is that we would vacate this building and make that the admin building, that hasn't been a part of the discussion, nor would that be suitable without a significant renovation. And you were saying, no, I guess that's not what your idea is. So the thought is we have a consolidated IT department as part of this project. As we mentioned downstairs in the basement, they're fragmented really at this point, as well as a lot of our other departments. I mean, like Kevin, for instance, he's in the basement and the rest of the facilities department's on the third floor because that's where we have space for them. So we're trying to do what makes sense and gain some efficiencies and group people as you would if we were to basically build a new building, right? You wouldn't say, I'm going to have people spread across 3 different levels. That's one of the goals. We haven't really spoken to that, but it just kind of goes without saying when you're redesigning a space.
And I think too, when you were mentioning the kind of reallocation of office space and consolidation of offices to better work together, you had mentioned that, or somebody had mentioned that there were, there's a potential for our family navigators to be housed in the building and have a landing site. There's a potential for the special ed department and different roles that we're gaining and adding to have office space to do that. Some of whom right now are kind of maybe have a space in a school, but maybe sometimes don't. Maybe it's closet space that's being used as an office. But I did appreciate also learning that in the process of renovating the building to accommodate those needs, that there is a plan, I think, not like minimal construction, not totally overhauling the building, but that you're saying, I can't even remember which floor it was now, 2nd floor maybe? That, offices would be added, but like some of the existing offices would also become a little bit smaller because that is something that you can do to then add more. So it's something that I appreciate that that's been thought out. And it's not just, adding a bunch of kind of excessive administrative space, right? It's actually taking it and consolidating it further so that you have what you need, and people who are added to the team or somewhere else right now have the ability to also be, it's just better thought out space. So I don't know if we had mentioned that recently. Are there any other comments on this item or questions?
Sorry, I got one more.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
So, knowing that over the next couple years, we're going to be intaking the LIU kids back, are there any positions, administrative positions, that you have to hire for that particular need? And do you know how many that would be?
Right now, we will need to, and it's in our comprehensive plan, we will need to hire a second supervisor of special ed. We have one. We would have to hire a second. Then one would be dedicated to elementary K through 5, and the other would be secondary 8 through 12. So that's another person that, we would have to create an office space for.
And then does that person also get a secretary, or are they not?
No.
Okay. So I just wanted to know if there was any other.
And one thing I'd like to point out that I don't think I've mentioned this in the last couple of times that I presented this and we discussed this was the option 3, including the second level. We're calling that a shell space, although it would be finished similar to basically what you see here. We would have the option, the board would have the option to award that ad alternate, and by doing that, I would anticipate there'd be good value in doing that because you're taking advantage of economies of scale, so to speak, in that if 10 years down the road after we were to complete this project, say we were to just award option 2, and then 10 years down the road, we need 5 more offices. Well, we're not going to have any space to expand. And I think that it's safe to say that our staff's probably not going to shrink. If anything, it's going to grow. So you have that opportunity to take advantage of the economies of scale and build at, call it next year's dollars, rather than, 10 years down the road.
I have another question. So looking at option 2 and 3, adding a first floor boardroom addition, that would be toward the parking lot? Yeah?
The first floor boardroom addition would be just on the other side of this wall. Single story is what option 2 is.
Is that taking any current parking lot?
It is. We would have to replace those parking spots. The thought with that is, we haven't, gone down this rabbit hole, but the thought is we would add parking bays on the other side of the loop road, out for a loop driveway out in front of the building to pick up those parking spots, as well as we do have a little bit of spare capacity. I say 98% of the time over in the parking lot that was added probably 4 years ago now, out in front of James Geddes.
All right, thank you.
Any additional questions?
No, but I do want to say, Madam President, just to kind of, to save you for a minute, I think you were correct in interpreting the writing in the agenda to mean that option 2 is recommended, because that is what it says. So I think probably what is really recommended is not option 2, as this states, but what is really recommended is option 3. And I think we need to be clear about that.
Okay, for the record, I'd like to revise that then. I'm sorry if I was incorrect. The administrative recommendation is option 3.
Okay.
At $7.5 million, which would then provide the board the option to award that ad alternate, which would be the second level. So I apologize for my typo.
Thank you. That helps. Any other questions on this item? Okay. So the motion on the floor is voting for
Two plus ones.
Well, it is right. I'm wondering if we need to amend it to do that, because it's written as option 2, and we voted for. We put forth a motion for what it is written there, which would be option 2, which is not what it is. So, who made the motion? I can't remember.
I think I did. So I'll just amend my motion.
Great.
So I'm going to amend my motion to, I don't know what's easier, either striking 2 and going with option 3, which includes the add alternate.
Great. Is there a second for the amended motion for option 3? Thank you, Donna. Any further discussion on the amended motion? All right, great. We'll go to a vote. Tim?
Yes.
Justine?
No.
Al?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Dave?
No.
And I vote yes. All right, we are moving on to policy 6.3. I think I'm going to take policies 6.3 and 6.4 together unless anybody has a need to separate those, since those have been items for information. All right, looking for someone to make a motion for approving policy 611, purchases budgeted, and policy 137, home education programs.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Not a discussion, but just to share that these policies have been vetted by our solicitor, PSBA, and our policy committee.
Great, thank you. All right, Dave had to be excused for a prior commitment, so just in case people were wondering, I'm going to start over here. Justine?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right, that brings us to our information items. I guess we could give maybe a little small overview on 7.1, our LIU general operating budget for 26-27. I know Dr. Matzner had sent us a little update about kind of why that's on there and what we get from partnering with the LIU.
Correct. So we, as member of the LIU, we do use their services. We have students that attend there. So they've obviously already are voted on their, all the districts that are in that footprint need to vote and approve the general operating budget. We really don't have much of a say in their budget. It's really just a routine approval. So if we were to not approve it and the majority of the districts do, it would still pass. But they do have a school code that has said we have to approve it every year.
Are there any questions on the general operating budget for the LIU? All right, 7.2, the district academic calendar. Any questions on that?
Not a question, but a quick remark, and maybe Dr. Matz or Dr. McFarland might want to, please correct me if I'm wrong. We looked at this during policy committee, and it's very similar to years in the past. Something that is unique with the celebration of our country's 250th, right around Remembrance Day. I believe we are scheduled for 2 remote learning days at the request of several people in town due to roads being blocked off or celebrations occurring.
That is correct.
Help me out.
Yeah, so I met with some members of the America 250 committee on the celebrations happening in town on the 18th and 19th of November. They basically warned me about 6 months ago when we met that most of the roads in town will be closed because of the enormity of the celebration that they're planning, which is terrific. We will certainly struggle to get buses where they need to be to pick up and drop our students off. So I just have it noted on the calendar right now, just highlighted to point those days out. We will most likely end up just having remote learning those 2 days. I am, in full transparency, still meeting with members of the committee to determine if and how our students can be a part of those celebrations. So that will be happening in the near future, and I'm really hoping that we can get as many of our students to be a part of those celebrations as possible.
Great, thank you. Moving on to 7.3, facility usage request.
Madam President?
Yep, go ahead, Tim.
This usage, of course, as is for a memorial event, it's not documented here, so I'm not going to say the person's name. I'm not putting anybody out here. But anyway, the person's a pillar of this community and has been for decades and done quite a lot for the district as a whole and the athletes and students here. I would like to make a motion to move this directly to an action item, and with a side note that this will not have any cost on the family or the people using the facilities for this memorial service.
Does that need a second?
It does.
I will second that.
Thank you. So this, any discussion on, or is public comment now or public comment? We have to move it.
Yeah, so
Correct.
you're attempting to move to act on this tonight?
Yes.
Okay. We didn't have it on the advertised agenda as an action item, though. It was only an information item.
I know, but we can move items to, and the reason this is happening because this particular memorial service is this coming Saturday. We will not have another meeting, so we were jumping.
So here's the process. We can do this. We would have to move to amend the agenda to add this as an action item. We would then have to allow public comment on it and to comply with the 24-hour posting requirement as amended by the recent court decision on that. The district would have to post the amended agenda by the close of business tomorrow. But as long as we do those things, we're in compliance and we can move forward that way tonight.
Okay, thank you. So Tim's motion might need to be slightly amended. It's to amend the agenda rather than,
Correct,
right?
to amend the
Okay.
agenda to add this as an action item for this evening.
All right, so we're going to amend, or I would like to amend this information item to an action item on the agenda.
I will second that.
Thank you. Any discussion before we vote on amending the agenda? All right, not hearing any. Donna?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Justine?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So now it is on as an action item. We need public comment
Correct.
before that.
Offer an opportunity for public comment.
Wonderful. It is,
We got one.
come on up.
Julietta Bose, I saw the thing, I saw how you're doing it, and Juliette Bose, for whoever's sitting there. I thoroughly encourage that you do vote yes on this memorial. I've met the gentleman, he's fabulous, and it would be a wonderful thing for you guys to do that for him. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other public comment from the community in the room? Okay, great. Now I'm looking for a motion to approve, or a motion for approving the request to use the high school cafeteria to host this memorial event for Saturday and waiving the facilities fees for the event.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Ryan?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Justine?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, moving right along. 7.4, the Team Room Warriors Stadium scope modification. This was an item that went back to our facilities committee and has come back as an information item with a couple of options on there for the Team Room project. Any discussion or not discussion, rather questions on this item?
I'll just say my piece. So as you can tell, it's for the same thing we kind of discussed the last time we talked about this, about potential removing of the pathway and the viewing platform on top of the team room. I'd just like to say that, we do a lot for the school and the students in the school. And when we get a chance to make the spectator alumni, parents of kids a better experience of viewing our sporting events at the stadium, I think it would be a great thing. And also knowing that and if you decide not to do this and then you change your mind 10 years down the road, you're done. Because once you change this, the structural integrity of that building will not let you do any of it. So it's kind of a now or never moment. And for the cost of this to gain an extra viewing area is, unsurpassed.
Go ahead, Justine.
So I did have a question from conversation about the seating at the stadium, and I don't know who I asked that question to. But my understanding is that the stoned areas, where the red stone is on both sides of where the home seating is, when the stadium was built, the intention of that stone area was for future seating if it's needed. Is that correct?
I can't answer that question. I wasn't here, I'm not sure. Dave?
Yeah.
Was?
Oh, yeah.
Dave gave a thumbs up, so that was what the intention was.
Okay, so I
That's
think,
just for the lower section, right?
yeah.
Yes.
By the field.
I think there's room inside the upper section.
For the upper section, right?
Discussion with the top section back at the fence.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think, so like with the options that are on the table, going to vote next month, the roof access path being removed and that structure on the roof not being an option, to save however much is being saved, $214,000 doing that. It's what's being recommended from administration, and I look at it as when you have the rooftop for people to stand on, and you have the team room, and you have kids running in and out, and you have rivalry, and you have things being thrown. It's just a safety issue, a major safety issue, in my opinion.
Any other comments or questions about this information item?
I do have a
Yeah,
question.
go ahead, Donna.
Well, I think it has a slight pitch to it, but it is a relatively flat roof. Josh could tell you, I know that sorry, I got a little loud. I think it was 400 and some people is what the thing, which would never happen. People's going to stand along the rail. And then you have a 6-foot wide pathway that goes from the concession stand to that, which people could stand along that rail as well. So you're gaining a long span of rail for people to stand at. Not to mention that when the stadium was built, the borough only allowed us to put as many seats as we had parking for. That's why there's only 2,500 seats. So we can't expand the home side unless there's hoops to go through to get new approvals to do this, and cost of probably $1 million plus to add any seats. So this gives you viewing area that you couldn't get for that kind of money. And if you go, like I said, you go to the games and you're on that mezzanine at halftime, at any time, there's always 4 deep trying to look through people. The mezzanine's packed with cheerleaders and stuff at halftime, because that's when they get their chance to go to concession stand, or somebody's trying to sell T-shirts or whatever out there. It's a very crowded situation, which lets some of those people fade away over to here and make it a little bit more flowing in that place.
Madam President, I just have a comment, really. I was on the board on October 6, 2025, when this was voted on. I voted no because I had a lot of heartburn about spending $2 million on something that, in my estimation, was a nice to have and not a need to have. All that being said, I'm a little perplexed why we're revisiting this. The board that was installed did its due diligence October 6, 2025, the months leading up to that. The Finance and Facilities Committee did its due diligence and made a recommendation to the board. The board voted in the affirmative, though I did not vote yes, but anyway, in the affirmative. And I guess I have a concern that are we setting a precedent that any future board can go back in time to a vote that a board made in good faith with the best interest of the district in mind and revisit that. So I'm perplexed why we're doing this, and I'm uncomfortable about the precedent we're setting.
Thank you, Kathleen. Ryan, go ahead.
I just have one more point to make, which is, and not seeing this fully planned out, but having spent time in the stadium, it does seem that we'll be looking down on the roof of the team room and just, what is that roof gonna look like from the bleachers is something that immediately pops to mind. Like, is it gonna be a black tar roof? Is it gonna be surface in some way?
It'll either be probably a black rubber roof EPDM, or it may be a TPO, which will be a white colored. We have options. Let's put it that way.
Thanks.
Now, if that's a stadium, that won't be rubber. If it's a viewing platform.
Oh, no, there'll be a concrete paver system on top of that. If the viewing platform is approved. Yes, sorry.
Any additional comments or questions? Okay, thank you. On that item it's written out in great detail, so I encourage board members to check that out at your leisure. And I imagine the Finance and Facilities meeting is always open to people who'd like to come to that. This will be on as an action item next meeting in the beginning of February. Moving forward, we have 4 policies under information item. Policy 100, comprehensive planning. Policy 113.3, discipline of students with disabilities. Policy 113.4, confidentiality of special education information. And policy 146, student services. I just want to say a quick note. I just feel like it's important to say this. I was reading the Gettysburg Times, or saw an article pop up that was quoting and covering the policy committee meeting that had these items on that list to review, which clearly they have done since they're on our information items. I was unable to attend that meeting. However, some of the quotes about sort of the reasoning behind having some of these policies, I know came across to some of the public as less student-centered than perhaps the way that we intend this to be. So I just want to speak kind of on behalf of the board and mostly on behalf of myself, I suppose, but the school district's main goal when we're talking about policies, whether they be for all students or specific to an area of students, students with disabilities, students with different education plans, is always to cover and protect the students and families that are in that position in the school district. So while policy also, of course, is something that we need to be legally following to make sure we have our ducks in the row for, paperwork and state mandates and the like, federal rules and laws, it is also with the best interests of the students in mind. So, whatever was quoted in the context of that meeting was to help understand kind of the general purpose of these policies, but also please know, community in general and community members out there, that the school district does operate with care for our students who have those needs, and these policies outline the ways we can make sure we're supporting them in the ways that fulfill federal policy to protect those students. So I just felt the need to say that out loud. And at this point, if anyone has questions about any of those policies or comments from the policy committee. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Alice. Not a question, but a comment. I haven't read the paper or how they perceived our discussions there. All 4 of these policies are brand new policies, recommended by PSBA, vetted by our committee and by our solicitor. So I'm not sure I'm not sure what you're talking about with the Times article. I'll have to check that out. But they've been clearly vetted, and we had a good discussion.
Alice, if I could add something just very quickly. Many of you may or may not know, a year or so ago, we went through a review of all of our policies and actually collapsed some categories into our 300s, which is all of our, basically our personnel employee policies. We are now in the process of doing that with our other categories, 100s, 200s specifically. And a lot of our policies actually go back and reference other policies. And these four in particular are ones that were referenced in other policies that we did not have on our books. So the suggestion from our solicitor was that we get these policies added, and that's kind of what brought this up. We'll probably be going through all of our policies, and we'll probably be looking at 4 or 5 each of our next several policy committees meetings, which means we'll continue to see some of these policies that we need to have that we don't have, or ones that need to be updated because they're very outdated coming around in the near future.
Great, thank you. Any other questions on those policies? Okay. Board committee reports, if there are any. Great, so for the next meetings coming up, they will remain for February. Policy committee the second Tuesday of the month at 4 o'clock, and finance and facilities the third Thursday at 4 o'clock. And we are planning on looking at moving that structure and changing that structure as we've been saying. So just in full transparency, looking at doing that moving into the month of March, hopefully. So we will keep you updated with that to try and get more of our board members the availability to attend those meetings. Program reports, Dr. Massey.
Yes, I do have a couple things quick. Looking at the time, I can see it's, we're moving on, so I want to make sure I do this fast. First of all, we do have a couple of upcoming winter concerts I would like to put out there for any board members or anyone listening that would like to attend. 4th and 5th grade orchestra concert is at 6 o'clock on January 28th, being held at the middle school. Also on January 28th at 6:45 at the middle school is our 4th and 5th grade band concert. So we do have some things coming up. Would also like to thank our communications coordinator, Vanessa. I know she puts the calendar out and I believe sent some information to you guys. We would love to have you at any and all of our activities. On that same note, it is not gone past us that January is School Board Recognition Month. So I would like to personally thank all of you for the job that you do. And again, with the help of Vanessa, we did reach out to all of our schools and asked our students to express their gratitude for the work that the school board does. So we are presenting each of you with a token of our appreciation that has messages in there from staff, from students, from faculty, just thanking you all for what you do to help our school district run as it does. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm very excited to open this and read it.
We did get responses, I would say, from Vanessa, I believe, of over 300 of our students and staff in there. So I'll have a little bit of reading to do.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. Our next meeting will be on Monday, February 2nd at 7 p.m. in this room. Looking for a motion to adjourn.